Through the above average SmackDown vs. Raw, Ukes have to figure out a way to rebound the ball and make a game that could rival Here Comes the Pain, a game that came out 2 years before and was considered the greatest wrestling game of all time. In November of 2005, THQ and Ukes released SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, and it changed wrestling games forever. From the arcadey but real-life gameplay, from the new modes, rosters, and other stuff to do, this game is damn near close to the best wrestling game of all time. Shout out to the soundtrack. My favorite is The Broken. Easy. Check it out. The roster, in my opinion, was aight. It has stars of wrestling like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Chris Jericho. It even had young stars from Here Comes the Pain that became superstars like John Cena, Batista, Randy Orton, RVD, Rey Mysterio, and Edge. Even though it had a nice crop of superstars, it did have some misses like Heidenreich, Snitsky, Rene Dupree, and the Bashams. 4 new things was added into SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. The first, and in my opinion the biggest one, was the ability to have championship matches and exhibitions. So if you wanted to have a World Heavyweight Championship match in the main event of WrestleMania pop off, you can do so. Another mode that was introduced for the first time was Fulfill Your Fantasy, which replaced the bras and panties match. The specifics of this match is that there was 2 divas who dress up either as a nurse, schoolgirl, or teacher. To win, you have to do whatever to get your fantasy meter up. This involves you beating your opponent with pillows, taking off their clothes, spanking them with a paddle, and etc. And another mode that was asked for many years was a Buried Alive match. It wasn't WWF's 2 SmackDown Know Your Role, but it was just you putting your opponent in a casket. In this version, you have to actually beat the fuck out of your opponent, drag him to the gravesite, and play a minigame which buries your opponent alive. Season mode was fucking amazing. Unlike the original SmackDown vs. Raw, there was voice acting for both your character and the person you're talking to. They actually matched the lines that was shown on the screen, and the story was way better, depending on if you were on Raw or SmackDown. If you were on SmackDown, Teddy Loggins ran over by a car, and it's up to you to figure out who did it, but it gets crazier. A SmackDown diva, Tori Wilson, contract was brought out by JBL, and now is his personal slave. However, you face JBL at the next pay-per-view to determine her freedom. However, no matter what happens, it's never brought back up, so plot hole. After that, you go on the Legends Tour and face legendary figures in wrestling, such as Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind, British Bulldog, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Hogan, etc. After that's done, you go to the Royal Rumble. You have to win in order to continue. And this is where shit gets interesting. See, if you were to pick a heel, it turns out you were the one to run over Teddy Long. However, once Teddy Long comes back, he makes your life a living hell to make sure that you don't make it to WrestleMania, which means you will be going one-on-one with The Undertaker. Real ones gets that reference. However, Triple H and Chris Jericho is trying to stop Teddy Long's plan. See, you have the option to either go to Raw and face for the World Heavyweight title, or stick it on SmackDown to face for the WWE title. But it ain't gonna get easier from there. If you pick Raw, you're gonna have to face Chris Jericho in a 15-minute hardcore Iron Man match to determine who faces Triple H at WrestleMania, which shouldn't be that hard. However, if you were a face, it was RVD who did it, and he wanted to rebranch the new ECW, which is how you unlock the ECW stage. The storyline for Raw, in my opinion, was kind of weak. If you were on Raw, Eric Bischoff and JBL was trying to screw over the show to start their own company. However, there was a wrestler who was all in on it, and it turns out it was Batista, the World Heavyweight Champion. You have to beat him at WrestleMania, and it ends the storyline. The only thing that I did not like about this is that it's not replayable, because there's no new storylines after the main storyline. But in my opinion, that's fine. It was so good that it doesn't even matter. To be honest, I love this gameplay over Here Comes the Pain. And the reason why is because they were going for simulation style wrestling by adding a momentum bar, stamina, 5 different grapple systems, and special things that wrestler does. However, it's kept with this fast pace and arcadey style of Here Comes the Pain. And another thing, characters actually wrestled with their attribute. For example, stamina was introduced for the first time, meaning there was a stamina attribute. If you were playing as a wrestler that had a low stamina attribute, guess what's gonna happen? Your stamina is going to run out fast. You're not gonna be able to do every big time move because you have to use your stamina wisely. And like I said before, grappling has been improved. Each wrestler has more specific grapple types of their choosing. There are 5 different grapple types. However, wrestlers have the choice of 3 out of 7 specific grapples, such as power, speed, technical, brawler, martial arts, luchador, and old school. The other two was either you were clean, aka face, or dirty, aka heel, grapples, and a submission grapple. A new Irish Rip was introduced, giving more offense to the opponent, but at the price of draining more stamina. And something else that I thought was funny was the hardcore attribute, which allowed those with higher rated attribute, hardcore attribute, inflicts more damage, and I thought that was pretty cool. Have you ever watched wrestling and was like, Vince, why the fuck can't you do your job? Well, in SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, it introduced one of the fan favorite game modes of all time. Even though it was only in 3 installments, it is one of the most popular and most successful game modes of any WWE game of all time, and it still hasn't made an appearance. It was GM mode. Essentially, you pick a show, you draft the roster, you pick their salary, and for a year you battle the CPU or your friend for the GM of the Year award. There are things that you have to look out for when doing this, however, such as popularity, fatigue, what the other show is doing, finances, etc. See, there was something that you had to be smart with this. So take, for example, fatigue. I could not put the same 2 wrestlers in the same 2 high impact matches every week because they would get injured. For example, if I were to put The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin in a last man standing match every single week, guess what's going to happen? They're going to get hurt. And since they're the most popular stars on the show, I can't afford that. Popularity was also something that had to be looked out for. So you can't have a wrestler with a 20 popularity win the World Heavyweight Championship. You needed someone with at least a 70. Also, there were promo options such as main event hype, talking shit about another show, sending wrestlers to mess with the other show, set up rivalries, even make up more money with advertisement, promos, or even merchandise endorsements. And whoever had the most fans, you are the GM of the year. Simple as that. 2K, bring this mode back, or I swear to fucking God. When you're done with the season mode, or get tired of GM mode and fulfill your fantasy for all those freaks out there, you can do other fun stuff. You can play Eugene's airplay mode, where you control the GOAT, Eugene, and have to fly him down the ramp and around the ring and avoid objects that can make him fall. You essentially press the R button, the R and L button to control his balance. You have trivia, asking him questions about wrestlers in the game. You could also play Slobber Knocker, where you pick a wrestler and pin, submit, KO every wrestler on the roster until there's none left. But if you don't want to do anything wrestling related, just sit down with your favorite commentators, GMs, or even wrestlers and play a good game of poker. Yes, poker in a WWE game. Why hasn't 2K got inspiration from this game? I don't fucking know. Essentially, you just couldn't get bored. There was too much shit for you to do. From the realistic but arcadey gameplay, GM mode, the fun interactive season mode, the match types, and all the other shit you could do, SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 could put an argument for best wrestling game of all time. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Do you think it's SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, or are you still believe that Here Comes the Pain is the greatest wrestling game of all time? Anyways, thanks for watching.